Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. Today we have with us Tiffany, whose last name starts with a G, and she'll tell you what it is in a few minutes. From TiffanyGstudios.com. Tiffany helps coaches be brave so you can sign up more clients, even if you hate marketing and sales feels icky. Love that. Welcome to the show, Tiffany, and do pronounce your last name for everyone, since I don't seem to be able to.
That's all right, you and everybody else. So my surname is Gilleland, but it looks like Gilliland when you write it down. So it confuses everybody, and it's my married name. And if I'd have thought about it, I probably wouldn't have agreed to change it. But here we are with the weird name that nobody can pronounce, but here we are. So,
yeah. But Tiffany's beautiful, and your last name is beautiful. Just, I don't know. I think maybe it's just the way it looks when you see it written. It's really hard for your brain to shift into I tried to write it down phonetically, and I still, it just doesn't want to come out right. It's probably just me.
Yeah, it's Welsh origins, although there's nobody Welsh in the family line that's, that's so many generations back. Yeah. So, yeah.
I hear you. My family was a Walsh, which was much easier to pronounce.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, how did you get started in all of this? Tell us your story, because I think you have a good story in there somewhere.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely interesting and full of twists and turns. So I guess I'd probably jump back to about 12 months ago, so I won't start too far back and bore people. But yeah, about 12 months ago, I'd been working in online marketing for over 10 years. And I was working as a launch coach, and I was a bit burnt out and a bit miserable with my business. And I was working with a coach, and she said, "Hey, if you had all the money in the bank already, what would you do?" And I was easy. Immediately, without even thinking, I said, I would start the podcast I've been dreaming of for 3 years. I would create a community. I would share other people, and I wouldn't be so stressed and worried about money. And it's as soon as I said that out loud, it was actually, there is nothing stopping me from doing that, because I have a background in doing the production work, video production and all that. So it was okay, the only thing stopping me was my fear, probably. And so, yeah, I had this idea for doing a bravery podcast. I knew what name it was going to be. It had been in my mind for 3 years. And I started that podcast. Ironically, or coincidentally, I had to be brave and start the bravery podcast. And then, yeah, it changed everything. I thought it was going to help people to launch, but the stories that people were telling, the coaches who came on the podcast were telling me, one of the stories was one of the girls said, "Oh, I sold out all of my sales calls, and then I had to get into the bathtub and rock back and forth just to get through the anxiety and not just go and cancel them all." And yeah, and that really resonated with me, and it resonated with a lot of other people. And then through talking to these amazing coaches, I then had to be more brave myself and deal with my own anxiety. And so I started doing brave things, and my business grew, and people were excited to talk to me. When I went into a networking call and I'd say, "Oh, I'm a launch coach," people's eyes would glaze over and go, oh, launch coach, that's, launch is a 4-letter word. Don't talk to me about launching. But when I go in and say, hey, I help people be brave and I run a podcast on bravery, suddenly everybody's like, hey, book in a coffee chat. I mean, I didn't even know this world of coffee chats existed. And then it was like, oh, hey, all right. So yeah, that's kind of how I got to where I am in the shortest sort of story possible. And yeah, why I'm so passionate about what I do.
And starting podcasts
Mm.
is not for the timid. Most people don't do more than, I think the number was like 20. If you can get past
Yeah,
20 episodes, then you're
you're yeah,
a
yeah, you're
rare
in the top
podcast.
1% of podcasts or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Not to be
Mm.
confused with being in the
Oh
top
yeah, top
1%
rating.
of the ratings of
Yes,
podcasts, because
yeah,
there's a big
yeah,
difference between the two.
yes,
But
yeah.
most people, it's not hard to start a podcast. It's
Mm,
hard to start a podcast and get it enough traction that people are listening to it and downloading
mm,
episodes. And
yeah.
that's really what drives your ratings numbers.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of effort too in the initial wave when you're all excited is awesome. Once you settle in and you realize you're doing the same tasks, especially if you're editing your own podcast and you don't have the luxury of a team or something, and you realize like it's sort of like one of my brave goals for this year is like being okay with boredom of some of that stuff just to keep moving everything forward. So yeah, I think it's definitely a challenge for people.
Yeah, and
Mm.
finding guests that meet your criteria, and just the beginning, just getting started.
Mm.
I'm one of those people that I just start things. I, I
Yeah.
I can always go back later and fix stuff if I have to.
Yeah.
Usually I just keep moving on and hopefully it gets better.
Yeah.
I've had a week with typos though, I have to say. Why is it like everything I've done, even though I reread it and I look for typos, it's just like, I can't believe I did that.
I, I hear you. I feel like I just want to change the spelling of certain words that I frequently have typos on. Like thanks now just has a B in it, everybody. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. If you can't work out what I'm saying, then I'm sorry.
I have words, there is one of them, there and there. The
Yeah.
THEIR, I have to like
Yeah.
stop and do it because when
Mm.
I was in third grade, it was a spelling word. And it was right after we'd gone through I before E, except after C. And it's just, there is an exception.
There's
I
so
didn't get the
many.
memo. My brain is just like, nope, nope, nope. Whoa, we don't know how to spell that word. And who, I always type out how. I have to go back through and look for any time I was supposed to be saying who and make sure it doesn't say how. All the same letters, but my fingers, they just think
Yeah.
who is typed HOW.
Yeah. Oh man, and those are the kinds of things too you can't necessarily do like find and replace because it might be the real one, the one you actually wrote might be the right one. And yeah,
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
that.
Problems with being an old typist. Started out as a secretary a million years ago.
Really. Oh wow. How many words per minute did you get up to? Like what was your, if you don't mind
Um,
me asking?
I can
Sorry.
type probably 90 words a minute now,
Yeah.
but on a
Mm.
typewriter, it was probably around 60, 65 on
Okay.
the
Yeah.
Selectrics.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I, my fingers know what things look like. I have to disengage my brain when I type from paper
Mm.
because my fingers know where to go. But if I engage my brain,
Mm.
all kinds of terrible things happen. Like I can't tell you where letters are on the computer, but I can type on a keyboard that has no
Mm.
letters left on it. In fact, I had a keyboard for a time,
Yeah.
and my family used to hate it because they would come in and they're like, how do you type on this? I can't even see the letters. It's like, well, I don't know. My fingers know where they are. I just go with that. I don't ever look at my hands when I'm typing.
Yeah. But that's how you learn the touch typing, isn't it? Like that's part of how I was taught,
Mhm.
was you cover the keyboard up so you can't look at it and have to type or something, isn't that? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Makes sense.
yeah. Just
Mm,
one of those things. You got to be brave. Just go for it.
absolutely.
So
Hmm.
you are a podcast host. We do need to make sure that everybody knows that. And her
Yeah.
podcast is Business Bravery Podcast. And you do have people come on and chat with you. And what kind of people do you have to come on your show?
Yeah, so mostly coaches, like because I help coaches, I share stories from other coaches. Although every now and then I click with someone who's, like maybe they're into branding or something like that, and they've got something interesting or new on the topic to say, and so then I connect with them as well. But what we do on the podcast is like we share their stories, so they're not just there showing up going, oh, hey, here's my stuff, buy my stuff. It's actually, so what brave things are you doing now in your business? What brave things did you do to get started? And then what brave things do you have coming up? And then everything else in between. So it's just something really inspirational and valuable, at least, has been for me. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
get it. You learn so much when you get to talk to so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. And just it was really interesting just seeing all of the similarities in what people have to go through, and things like believing in themselves, and oh, can I really coach other people, can I really help people, can I really start this business, who am I? And just like pretty much every guest has some sort of story around some of those things. And yeah, it's just sort of, yeah, always interesting. It's not a case of, oh, okay, yeah, I'm brave at the beginning of my business, I've got bravery sorted, I never need to be brave again, because like every level there's something, outside of your comfort zone, something brave to do. So yeah.
Even if
Mm,
it's just moving
mm,
on,
mhm,
to the next thing,
yeah.
doing the next
Mm,
logical thing, or
mm,
hiring a coach. Hiring a coach is it's a thing that takes a lot of bravery because you don't know for sure that this person is going to be able to help you. And I'll give you a tip. Every coach I've ever hired, and I've hired so many of them over the years, I've
mm,
easily spent over $150,000 on coaching in my lifetime.
mm. Nice.
I've been at this
Yeah.
for a long time, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Mm,
they all
mm.
teach you something.
Yes.
They're all doing something slightly different.
Mm,
And you will always take something away from the experience, whether it's
mm,
what you wanted or how they're doing it. How they're doing it is sometimes worth the cost of admission just to
yeah.
see how they're putting something together. So you can
Mm,
do something similar, not
mm,
exactly the same thing, but
mm,
in whatever field you're working in. And
mm,
so it's always a good idea to find people that you admire and pay them something to help
mm.
you
Yeah.
to learn what it is that they know. And
Mm,
not everybody knows everything. That's when we go to college, we take lots of different courses. It's not like one professor teaches you everything you need to know about the curriculum that you're trying to get your degree in. Well, life is like that. When you hire coaches, and business is like that, especially now, because things change so fast and new
mm,
technologies come along and new apps, really.
mm,
It's like,
mm,
oh, these people saw a gap and they're exploiting it. And
mm,
I can use that here, which is, we were talking before the show, I was back engineering something I saw somebody else doing. And it was because they found this app that
mm,
could do this specific thing that they're teaching people to do. Um, it's more complex than that, but basically it's this app allows them to do something and they discovered it. It's like,
mm.
wow, that's so cool.
Absolutely. And in the world of podcasting, anything that makes things easier, because there's quite a bit of work behind getting the podcasts up and out into the world. So yeah.
It is, and
Mm.
it's more difficult in the beginning. It's like anything else you do. The more you do it, the repetitive process, the faster you get at it,
True. Yeah.
and the more you have to slow down a little bit so you don't make the mistakes that are so easy to make.
Oh, wow. That's where I love having a brand around bravery now, because it's like I get to be brave and I get to be a little bit messy. And it's like if I make mistakes, it's like, hey, I'm just being brave, guys. Yeah.
And somehow that label is just like, it's like a shield that you can hold up and say, don't you throw your arrows at me. I'm being brave here. Brave shield.
Yeah, actually it's funny you say that, because it's sort of, it also works on the little inner critic and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it definitely helps. And yeah, especially because like for me, bravery, it's more than just feel the fear and do it anyway. It's kind of like actually, shoot for the moon, land on the stars, but don't beat yourself up because you didn't land on the moon the first time. And then,
Yeah.
focusing on effort over results and kind of, getting your subconscious and everything on board. So when you go to take the actions that you want to take in your business, you're not sort of like subtly sabotaging it because your subconscious isn't feeling safe. Like those little sabotages of, oh, suddenly like you're in the middle of running masterclasses and for some reason you just can't get yourself to send the replays, even though you know you should, or somebody asks you for a quote or something and, oh, I want to know about working with you, and you don't get back to them as quickly as you normally would, because sometimes that can be your like subconscious and just wanting to feel safe and just, no, can't do anymore. And yeah, so that's kind of yeah, what sort of bravery sort of means. And yeah, just
I like that. I like that. I
mm.
like conjures up for me the images of, the knights in the old days and their armor and really the shield thing, because
Mm.
having that shield is just like, hmm? And even for your own head, it gives you that feeling of like, I'm putting on brave today and I'm all dressed up. I've got my armor on, my brave armor. Then I got
Yeah.
my shield up. So
Mm.
you're telling your subconscious, you're safe. You're safe. You got
Yeah.
your armor on. We can go out
Yeah.
there and we can do what we're going to do. And nobody's going to hurt us because got our armor on.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about it like that, but maybe subtly, yes. Or for me, it's like, it's like putting on the Superman suit, even though
Mhm.
Superman's not my favorite superhero by any means, but it is a little bit of like, putting on the suit and it's like, oh, yeah, I'm being brave. And rather than before with all the anxiety, I used to avoid things and, oh yeah, I've got to get to that, got to get to that. And then it gets bigger and bigger in my head and scarier in my head. So then it just would be harder to do those things. Whereas by being brave and like even small brave things like picking up the phone and calling someone or something like that, like business related,
Mhm.
and then yeah, it just becomes easier and easier to keep doing that stuff. So yeah.
I wonder if that's not why we used to wear uniforms. It was an identity, and you put on brave as an identity. I am a brave person, and we don't.
Yeah.
Most people don't wear uniforms anymore. But in the military, they have uniforms. And then when they went to the office, they used to wear suits and a tie. And there's no reason
Mm.
for a tie.
Mm.
So you have something handy if you want to hang yourself? I don't know.
Oh,
Business
that
didn't
went
go
dark.
well today.
My gosh. Thought about
But
that. I'm like, oh, are the buttons that ugly? We need to cover them up. No, no buttons.
yeah, you can't
Oh,
tell which way the buttons fold. I guess for women, they're on one side and men, they're on the other.
yeah,
I
yeah.
stole my
I
wife's
do what
blouse today. We only have one blouse we have to share. Today was my day to go out.
you
Throw a piece of cloth over it.
know. Oh, okay. Love that.
Uh, so yeah,
Mm.
assuming an
Mm.
identity of bravery. I really like that whole concept. So
Yeah.
how do you help people? And I know you have a Facebook community. We
Mm.
should talk
Uh,
about that a little bit.
yes, yes. So I do have uh it's Business Bravery with Tiff, and yeah, it's this place, like I'm just pulling it together now as part of these masterclasses that I'm running. I have a business bravery framework. So this whole stuff that I teach in that sort of stuff, it's all about, setting the brave goals and, planning out your life, but that's goal setting, like not the way I was taught goal setting at school. These people who are like, oh, just do what you did last year and add 10%. For me, I like stuff that's exciting and fun and is a little bit challenging, and everybody's version
Different.
of challenging is different. But yes, yes, I mean, you say the word set an achievable goal and I go, no, I won't take any action on that, thanks. So yeah, I've created this whole thing of doing brave goals. And then as part of that process, while we're doing the planning, we actually look at the fears and the objections that come up while we're doing the planning. And we kind of work through those ahead of time so that, normally this is how I used to do it. I'd plan out and I'd plan this awesome thing. I'm going to run this launch. It's going to be amazing. And then I would expect myself to become a completely different person during the implementation. I suddenly thought that I was going to have no fear, no objections, and I'd do all the things. I wouldn't get stuck in procrastination, but that's not how it works in reality a lot of the time, especially when you're doing big, brave things in your business. So that's why I kind of use some of these mindset tools and created this as part of the planning so that we can actually have a plan for when your brain says, you know what, Tiff, nobody wants your masterclasses. Don't post about it today. No, nobody really wants it. And I mean, I listen to that voice too much. And it's like now I have a plan and go, actually, you know what? I've worked through this and I have a plan and I have some new thoughts. And actually, it's possible that they will want to see the masterclass and that kind of stuff. So that's part of how I help people. And then in the Facebook group, we go even deeper into the process. And I do a little bit of extra bonus coaching and help people with like the check-ins and the staying on track and the accountability. Because what I found is I would teach the system and people go, this is amazing. And then within a couple of days, they would fall into some old habits, especially the old thinking, like thought patterns and things like that. And then they would feel bad because they'd fallen off track with their goals and things. So that's why I want to create something that really helps people sort of build the foundations and really solidify that. So yeah. And then of course from there there's actual like one-on-one coaching with me and all that in a paid capacity, but that's what I have in my like um free offers at the moment. So yeah, does that make sense?
Makes total sense. And it's
Yeah.
really, I think it fills a gap where people are like, I know I should be doing these things. I may not know exactly how to do them. Maybe I know all the steps and I know I should be doing them. Maybe I tried it half-heartedly once, maybe even tried it half-heartedly twice, and it
Yeah.
didn't go the way I wanted it to go. So, obviously I shouldn't be doing that. Instead, if they can
Mm,
go and troubleshoot with you and say, okay, so let's look at it. Why didn't it work? And what were
mm,
your numbers? And what can you reasonably expect from
mm,
from the next go around? And
mm,
and
yeah.
just changing like one thing,
Mm,
see how that works. Then
mm,
change
yeah.
one more thing and not try to just like throw everything up in the air, reshuffle it and try again. And then if it works, you don't know why it worked and the other thing didn't.
Mm, yeah. Well, I mean, like, yes, there's that side of things in kind of the outside world, but there's also the stuff in the thoughts and the thought patterns and stuff, which just helps people to take action because it's very different when you go out there going, oh, will you buy my thing? Will you buy my coaching? Please buy my coaching because then I'll know I'm a good coach if you buy my coaching versus, hey, I am my best self right now. I am here. I'm here to serve you, and here's how I help you. It's like you can feel even the shift. Hopefully, you can feel the shift in my voice. And
Mhm.
it's like, who do you want to work with? And you can kind of see how that can create just different results in terms of people buying with you. And that's just a slight change in thought of, actually, I've made a decision that I'm worthy and that I'm here to serve, rather than the other thoughts of, oh, maybe I'm worthy. What if I'm not worthy? Will this person tell me I'm worthy? Which can hold us back a lot.
Yeah, especially when you're looking for other people to give you affirmations. It has to come from inside you. And instead of thinking of things as selling, I really don't like that word. I've been in sales for like 40 years of my life, so I have some experience with it, but I always just wanted to help people. And sometimes in the helping, you get an exchange of energy, which is currency.
Mm.
Sometimes you get an exchange of energy, which can be other things.
Mm.
It's just an exchange of energy. And if you're if you're genuinely trying to help someone that you know you can help and you don't make the offer, that's kind of not fair to you or to them, because I mean you could help them. They need your help.
Mm.
It's kind of incumbent on you to offer it. If they say
Mm.
no, they say no, but you should make the offer.
Mm.
And you
Yeah.
should own the price of whatever it is.
Mm.
If you've decided on the price that you're going to charge for something, then it's just the price. It's not I'm charging. It's just the price is.
Mm.
And when you're putting your offer together,
Mm.
if you take it, if you take what you're offering and you come up with a price that's high enough that it's hard for you to say,
Mm.
just barely, but you're going to choke a little bit when you say it. And then you make sure that you 10x that price and you make your offer worth 10 times what you're asking for. And you
Mm.
deliver that.
Mm.
It'll
Yeah.
make it'll make the process of getting the payment much easier. To be
Uh,
brave and say that big number.
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely, and it helps if you can do some of the stuff on the mindset to help you with that. Just because, I mean, I've had clients where it's like, oh, pick a number that you feel is just a little stretch, but if then kind of got the self-doubt and things behind it, then even that stretch number won't get them the same results, versus if they can get some of those thoughts and feelings on board. So when they show up and say that big number that feels a stretch, they're showing up from that best place of their highest self, and that confidence and passion that inspires people to say, oh, actually I want a little bit of that, especially like for coaches. Like part of what people are investing in is like they want a little bit of you and a little bit of your energy, and they kind of want to learn how that works. And yeah.
That, yeah,
Mm.
that's
Mm.
why I'm saying you 10x that
Mm.
price
Yeah.
and you make the value that 10 times price.
Mm.
So it's a
Yeah.
no-brainer. It's like,
Mm.
of course I want
True.
all of that for such a little price.
Oh yeah, no, I get that. Especially like, I mean, that's a long-standing marketing thing. I think for me, a lot of times I used to hold myself back because it's like, oh, here's my 10x value, but then I'd have this sneaky little thought of like, but what if I can't get that value for that person? Or what if I don't get it right this time? And those little sneaky thoughts would sneak in, and then yeah, suddenly the person was going, oh, I think I'll think about it, and I don't think I've got the money and things like that too. So yeah, just from my own experience there of going, actually, yeah, you're right. I can see where I was missing a couple of things there.
Yeah, and it does happen. I mean,
Mm.
you're out there trying to present stuff, and it's not your job to make sure that they get the results. It's your job to provide the information, their job to get the results. I
Mm.
used to have this conversation with my kids in school. I let them go to a public, it was an alternative school for high school. They went for
Mm.
3 years, each of them, and they all graduated when they were 16.
Mm.
So their job going to school was to get A's because
Mm.
I could get them C's at home. There
Yeah.
was no reason for them to go to school other than to get this piece of paper. It was a privilege. Their job was to suck the information out of the instructors in order to get these A's. It was the instructor's job to give them information. That's all his job is to stand up in front of you and tell you stuff. It's your job to extract that information and make it applicable and memorable for you. And it worked really well for them. They all did really well in the school. But it's not the instructor's job to make sure that you're learning. It's your job to make sure you're learning.
Yeah. I've definitely had some issues with some of that stuff. Like I've found myself being kind of like an extra capable person and put an extra lot of pressure on myself. It's like certain personality types get attracted to that, and then it's like you can end up in this situation where it's like they expect you to do everything. Like I was creating this stuff for myself, especially through a lot of lack of a lot of self-doubt and a lot of, I guess, lack of self-esteem at the time and things. So yeah, definitely some things that I've had to work through. And I'm kind of like, now that you're talking about it, I'm really glad that I'm not working with people who are like that. Like they're actually showing up and taking the responsibility for their side. And I guess like I'm showing up in a way that sort of says, here's what I expect, and I expect you to take the responsibility for that side. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of it is just your expectations for your clients too. And you don't have to work with everybody. You need to interview these people on the other side too. It's just like, do I really want to work with this person? Or is this person going to be like so much work that it's not worth it to me?
Yeah.
Or make sure that you're pricing it so that it is worth it to you, because it will show up in the way that you show up.
Yeah.
Especially on one-on-one coaching. Group coaching, kind of a different story, because then they're just one of a group of people and their personality will kind of get muted a little bit. And the whole group can lift them.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, just thinking like the actual value of like group think and group dynamics in the group coaching thing. Yeah. I hadn't thought about it like that, but yes. And the power of sometimes if you've got one I don't want to say bad apple, but one like completely different personality in the group, but they're a dominant personality and it changes the whole dynamic and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I admit sometimes I'm that person. To really dial it back. Like, I'm not here to coach, I'm here to be coached. I just need to shut up and listen.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. When you're used to naturally being a leader and naturally having the answers and speaking up and that kind of stuff. Absolutely.
It really doesn't help the person who's trying to coach you. It just confuses everybody else, because no two people teach things in exactly the same way, and everybody has their own ideas about things. And so when you try to step into that role that you're paying for their information, again, it's your job to be absorbing the information that they're putting out and assimilating it so that it works for you. You're not there to like offer your opinion.
Yeah,
And
true.
sometimes you can fall into the trap of being asked your opinion and giving it, and that's not really all that helpful.
True. Very true.
It just ends up confusing people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
things we learn in life. I'm not really good at it all the time, but I do recognize that it's one of those things that I do and that I need to be careful not to do.
Yeah.
So do you do group coaching and one-on-one coaching? Just group coaching? Just one-on-one coaching? Are you just doing your podcast? What are you doing?
So, yeah, I do the podcast. I do one-on-one coaching. I run a podcast accountability group for other podcasters, and that keeps us all on track. And yeah, and then in the future, I've tried to launch group coaching, but I've never really had people take me up on it. So I'm thinking in the future it's going to be like a one-on-one group hybrid, and maybe that has enough of the balance, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the plan, because like 8 weeks of bravery together and all that good stuff. Just I think it'd be amazing in a group. I can see the vision. Yeah, haven't always been great at getting everybody else to see that vision with me, or people want to do things at different times and things like that. Like my thing about bravery is I do help people with a range of things. So like some people it can be helping them get on camera, some people it's, getting their clients, and others it's running masterclasses or launching their podcast. One of my new clients is writing a book and things like that. So it's like I have that general knowledge and can help people all across all of those things.
So do you do a lot of co-working with your clients?
Um, oh, um,
Have you
I'm
thought
not
about that?
sure. How do you mean? Do you mean sort of like done with you services, or do you mean like co-working, like, oh, let's show up together and
Yeah.
work? Um, Yeah, not so much actually. I mean, yeah, like when I used to do things weekly, like now I do things every second week. So there's like 2 sessions in the month. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like, oh, we get in and then they have time to implement in between sessions. When we did stuff weekly, I think it was a bit more of that, okay, like let's work on this stuff together. But it's a lot of the mindset and the marketing stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I've
Mm,
seen
yeah.
some people doing that model of the work along or co-working,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it can work in some situations, especially if you're all kind of working on something that's sort of similar, and you
Mm,
might have like questions where you're doing it and getting answers, and then having accountability at the end of the work
mm,
frame
yeah.
that just really
Yeah.
helps you make sure that you're getting it done other than
Yeah.
doing other
Oh,
stuff.
I definitely can see that in a group dynamic. But when you asked me that, I was thinking in one-on-one terms, and I was like,
Oh
oh,
no.
I haven't tried that. That feels immediately awkward to me.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that it's not valuable. And I'm like, oh, is this a new thing? Are people doing this? Tell me all. Like
No, no, I'm talking about a group, because you were
a group.
talking about the
Yeah.
different things that people could
Mm,
come to you for. And I was just
yeah.
thinking that, if they're all working on their own thing, but
Yeah.
you could be available and working on
Mhm.
your own stuff.
Mm,
But if
yeah. Yeah.
you're all like
Yeah.
with your cameras off on Zoom for an hour,
Mm,
and
yeah. Yeah.
you have an agreed upon thing at the beginning that you're going to accomplish during this hour. Everybody
Mm,
goes to work. If they got
yeah.
questions, they can pop back on and
Yeah.
ask you, but then
Yeah.
they're back to doing their thing.
Mm,
And then at the
yeah.
end, you have the accountability part.
Mm,
Did you
yeah.
get that thing done?
Yeah, I'm in a membership at the moment. They run those, and because I used to be kind of like, because I'm so independent, I've been doing this for so long. Like, what do I need co-working for? I'm like, other people working. I mean, I could just go and get stuff done. And then I found sort of the power of it was like the discussion before, the little bit of discussion afterwards, and that kind of stuff. It was like, oh, right, this is what this is about. Now I get it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the party on so many things that have been around for years, but I get there in the end sometimes.
So, not everything's for everybody, but
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of interesting. And
Mm,
I've had some recent experiences with it. I think that's why it's kind of front of
mm,
mind for me, in that
yeah.
it's like, oh, this was really actually kind of helpful
Mm,
and
yeah.
inspiring, because somebody shared
Yeah.
something at the end of one of the last ones I was in, and it's just like, wow, that was amazing. That was worth the whole hour of me sitting here doing this thing just for that.
Oh my gosh. What did she share? Do you mind if I ask?
It
Or
was a it was a copywriting workshop, and
yeah.
I'll just tell you, it was Joanne Homestead. She did this copywriting workshop, and I went to it, and she gave some prompts. It was how to write your about me
Okay.
introduction
Yeah.
for a
Mm,
nurture sequence.
mhm,
And the gal that that shared at the end, it was just like, yeah,
Mm. Yeah.
so good. All right, back to the drawing
Yeah.
board for me.
Yeah, I didn't think of that actually, because yeah, I do have that kind of co-working in my master classes where it's like actually I teach a bit, then you actually do a bit, people share. But yeah, I didn't think about that as co-working as well in like a masterclass sense. But yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think that is really powerful in terms of cementing in people's
yeah.
heads what it is that you've
Mm.
taught them so that they can
Yeah.
actually implement it. Because a lot of problems, I think, with most master classes is that people never really implement the thing that you're teaching them. So they don't have enough of the pieces to do it. And
Mm.
if you're giving them time to actually get something accomplished,
Yeah.
then they've been brave. They've taken that first step, which is really the hardest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like that helps adults learn, like they learn by doing. And also, like from a launch perspective, is like you're giving somebody like a result ahead of time and
Mhm.
showing that, you know, you're worth investing in. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I love having interactive stuff. I don't just want to teach. People go, yeah, that sounds nice. They go away and they don't do it. That's why I've created the Facebook group to go with the masterclasses this time, so that it's like people can get the extra foundational stuff that I can't squeeze into 90 minutes, because it's just like there's, you know, a bit of knowledge to learn for the, you know, the check-ins. And, you know, it's hard to teach the check-ins when you're not at that point. It's like, oh, I need to check in for the week. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So many cool things out there happening.
Absolutely.
Ways to do things and just
Yeah.
putting on your brave suit and getting started.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Tiffany, how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I hang out the most over on Instagram. So at Tiffany G Studios, Tiffany, G for golf, Studios. No spaces, no underscores, nothing like that. And yeah, and from there you could probably find me in the Facebook group or on Instagram. So yeah.
Perfect. So what's the one thing that you hope the audience takes away from this conversation?
Um, yeah, just that your thoughts have power, and you actually have the ability to choose thoughts that work for you, which, you know, like I was sort of talking about before with in some situations, it's like, oh, I had the thought of, oh, you know, like if you're in a sales call or something, and you have the thought, oh, they can't afford this, all of a sudden, all of your actions and everything sort of make that the case. And yet, if you have the thought, actually, this is amazing value and all of that stuff that we talked about, it's like the power of the thoughts, and you can actually choose your thoughts, and that can help with your getting results. So, yeah.
Amazingly help you. Amazingly help you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a very brave and wonderful call.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.